Let's be honest, it's painful to watch. And I think we have to step back and think about this for a second. It is everyone's responsibility. So it's the responsibility of the individual who did that online. Then it's the responsibility of the company that allowed this to get online. They have to work harder. And then it's culture's responsibility. So who's thinking about that individual and the future individuals that could be doing that? What role are we playing in that?
Sure, and who's speaking into culture? That's a huge, huge part of what we talk about at Context. You know, live at one time, guys, was only about newscasters, right? An editor always held the key to what actually appeared on air. That has totally changed. James, you know, can and should everyday people have these live capabilities?
I take the position of yes, and I'll tell you why. I think, I look back in history and I think when the printing press came, everyone got up in arms saying, no, 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 you're going to let everybody else have this information. Sure. Like you look at even at priests and they want to control that, but then suddenly it developed so much quicker. And now I think we have an opportunity to use that. We've just got to work harder to guard what happens with it.
So Sheldon, I want to ask, you know, companies like Facebook say they rely on the public to actually flag bad or illegal things online, but that obviously isn't working so well.
That's right. I actually spoke with Daniel Tobuk, CEO of Cytelligence, and we kind of really dug deep into this. And he says social media platforms need to be a lot more proactive about what's actually being posted online. And he says we're talking about filters. And what are really filters? We're talking about mechanisms that would really attach itself to keywords, violent related stuff, sexual misconduct. And when that happens, the red light goes off and they can kind of analyze what's really going on. But that raises the big question, as we spoke about, can users really be trusted? He says yes, but there's much more to think about. Let's go to that clip right now.
We have platforms and technologies that are emerging for us as consumers and businesses, just unfortunately in the wrong hands. It all depends on how people use them. It's exactly like having a gun. Some people are licensed and they shoot their gun at target practices. Some people can take it to the next level and perform a violent crime. A car is the same thing. A car can be a weapon. So it's not about, I think, limiting the exposure or access to consumers or businesses. It's about what they do with it.
So Sheldon, what are companies doing then? I mean, to curb that violence? Like, what are they actually doing?
Well, let's talk about the big one. Facebook, the social media platform, has been trying to deal with the rising problem of people really committing suicide on its live streaming service. So it's really been beefing up suicide prevention on its live streaming platform in a few ways, teaming up with support organizations such as the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, offering live chat support, and is currently testing, which I thought was quite interesting, artificial intelligence that will function to identify warning signs related to self-harm. I see you shaking your head, or other things. A Facebook-led researcher for suicide prevention, Jennifer Guadagno, said, in this way, live becomes a lifeline. Powerful. It opens up the opportunity for people to reach out for support and for people to give support at this time that's critically important. Powerful.
Yeah. James, let me come back to you. Can the public play a role in putting more pressure on companies to do more, even more than what Sheldon's telling us?
Absolutely, and I'll tell you why. It's built in the DNA of how a tech company is structured. So a tech company ultimately says, how can I bring greatest value to my customer? But when your customer says, this is the value I want, and pressure comes over and over and over again, they're going to make changes. It's just inevitable.
Around tech, but you are passionate about positive things online. Tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Just over a year and a half ago, I heard this phrase: in the midst of devastation, there's an opportunity for innovation. And it completely changed my life. God and I had my family in a context where we were seeing the hurt from our neighbors and in our city. And then he also has us in Waterloo, Ontario, which is one of the fastest growing tech cities in the world. And I simply asked, who's working with the tech innovative crowd to help those on the margins? And from there, it exploded. And now we're starting to see, just really in the last year and a half, more and more people starting to say, okay, technology is changing us. What do we do with that? And then there's a whole group of people that have these incredible gifts and talents and abilities with technology, and they haven't known what to do with them. And so we're trying to say, here's incredible opportunities.
Let's talk about, you know, FaithTech seeing the need around suicide online. How are Christian coders changing the conversation around that?
This is crazy. So we discovered that here in Canada, over 6,000 people a month search the phrase, how to kill yourself.
Wow.
Disturbing, 6,000. Disturbing part is that #1 search result is 7 easy, painless ways to do it. The fourth one down is a YouTube video, and this is real. It's not just kids searching this. So we said, how do we change this? A group got together, 2 web developers, communications manager, and a psychotherapist. They bought the domain, howtokillyourself.org.
That's what we're looking at right now on the screen, and it's howtokillyourself.org, but there's actually helpful tips.
Well, look at this, right? Ask yourself, here's the difference. You're not alone. Their end goal is to replace all that garbage on page 1 with that.
And you can do that. With Christian coders can do that.
Absolutely.
It's crazy. I want to ask, James, YouTube says that they can't keep up with negative propaganda from, let's say, groups like ISIS even just putting bad things online. What and who are you up against as a small, Christian company?
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the hard part in that. One of the biggest groups we're up against right now is the church. And what I mean by that, I love the church, but right now the church is very fearful to use technology, to think about technology, and we're talking in the context of addiction, which I think we need to talk about, but we also need to recognize that this is the greatest opportunity in the history of the world to use technology for good than we've ever seen. And I think the church has an incredible opportunity to step into that, use the resources and people it has to do things we've never been able to do.
James, you called technology an addiction. The doctor we just spoke to, he had said it's more of an obsession. You're sticking with addiction there.
I'm sticking with addiction. Over 75% of us check our phone within 5 minutes of waking up. So statistically, I'm going to check what random person messaged me overnight before kissing my wife good morning.
Sure.
That's a serious problem. And I think we're just starting to see the effects of this, where people can't get away from it, where they're shaking when they have to put it away. I think we need to start talking about this.
James, we have 30 seconds. Tell me, what is the vision for the future with FaithTech and Christians coming together to change the conversation?
It's both and. From one perspective, it's how do we think about technology in a way that's healthy for us, putting in good rules and regulations for us personally and as a culture, but also to recognize right now we can use these Christian developers in very powerful, beautiful, wonderful ways to change the world, and we need to step into that and do it.